Welcome everyone to the Higher Education Deep Dive. I'm Louise Plunkett, the International Product Strategy Director for D2L, and I'm joined by...
Hi folks, my name is Danielle Burt. I'm the Manager of Solution Engineering.
Earlier today, you've had the opportunity to hear about many of the innovations, investments, and announcements shaping the future of Brightspace. In today's session, I'd like to take a slightly different perspective. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to spend time with institutions around the world, speaking with university leaders, educators, learning designers, technology teams, and students. And while every institution is different, the conversations are becoming remarkably consistent. It's not because everyone's facing the same circumstances, but because many are wrestling with the same fundamental tensions. Questions around scale, questions around AI, questions around trust, security, and privacy, questions around workforce readiness, and questions around how to evolve without disrupting what already works. And what's becoming increasingly clear is this: the challenge facing higher education isn't whether to innovate. It's how to innovate while balancing these priorities at the same time. And as we look across higher education today, there are 5 tensions that come up time and time again, regardless of the institution's size, region, or delivery model. Learning is expanding, and maintaining quality is getting harder. Everyone wants to move faster, but nobody wants to lose trust. Learners expect more, but educators aren't magically getting more hours in the day. And most institutions aren't short on data, they're short on time to act. Everyone wants progress. Nobody wants to break what already works. These aren't technology challenges. They're institutional challenges. And the innovations we're sharing today are really responses to these tensions. So let's start with the first one: quality versus scale. Because this is one of the most consistent conversations we're having with institutions right now. Learning is expanding, new delivery models, new learner audiences, new pathways. But the expectation for quality hasn't changed. And increasingly, the challenge isn't creating more learning content. It's managing it, maintaining consistency, updating it over time, and reusing expertise across programs. And doing all of that without creating any more complexity. That's the challenge we're trying to address with CreateSpace.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Holliday, a Senior Product Manager here at D2L. Over the past several months, we've been working closely with a group of beta customers trying out CreateSpace and hearing about the challenges that their teams are facing. Teams are creating more content than ever, but they're still managing it in a very manual way. And it creates a lot of overhead, it creates a lot of complexity and a real risk of inconsistency. What's exciting about CreateSpace is that we're working to enable groups to create this content once, manage it centrally, and then deliver it consistently across courses. And that idea really resonated with our beta customers. The biggest reactions we saw were around the concept of making a change once and knowing it will update everywhere that they need it to, as well as a space and the workflows for creating reusable content specifically. That's a huge unlock for teams managing shared curriculum at scale. What this ultimately unlocks is a shift in how institutions think about content, from something that lives in an individual course to something that's centrally managed and reusable across the organization. That means less time maintaining content and more consistency, and eventually better visibility into how that content is being used and how it's performing. And that's why I'm excited about where we're headed. The need is clear, the vision resonates, and with everything we've learned from our beta customers, we can deliver something truly impactful with CreateSpace.
Last Fusion, we announced our plans to build and deliver CreateSpace as part of our core platform, and to work with you, the sector, to make sure what we're building would be building with impact. This brings us to today, where Danielle is going to take us from concept into our new reality in CreateSpace.
Before I jump into the platform, we really wanted to orient you to the folks that we built CreateSpace for. A lot of times we hear institutions managing content through email, through Word documents, externally to the platform, and in a suite of tools. But now in CreateSpace for instructional designers, they can create engaging content faster using reusable materials, best practice templates, and learner previews. Course builders can manage course versions with confidence by updating shared content once and keeping related courses consistent. And also for faculty, where you can build and update courses independently with intuitive tools, reusable content, and safe spaces to prepare changes before publishing. So let's talk through how this looks in the actual platform. As I jump into CreateSpace here, we'll start with this dashboard, as it's the central hub for building content once, collaborating with your team, and efficiently sharing it across multiple courses. And we'll showcase those workflows today in how CreateSpace has been developed. I'll jump into the content library here, and I'm going to showcase created content, as well as we're going to create some content from scratch. Before I head into content, I'm going to show you a few things that help you collaborate and manage this content at scale. You can see there's a folder here, as well as module and individual content types. That's because this really is a collaborative space, in that if I add content, you can see a suite of components, including up to a module. So this allows you to package those components into something that can be distributed as an asset across multiple courses. From within the folder structure, I can also simply edit and collaborate with other users, including individual people or entire roles, allowing both the addition of users, but also removal of users with ease. If I head into this folder here, you can see I have a suite of content already created. So if I navigate through a few of these, I'll show you the art of the possible of how you can create and manage content. I'm going to do so from a created module called Music History. If I jump into the edit experience, you'll start to see that I've really crafted a fully complete module that can be deployed, including using D2L Lumi to generate a module summary, using content creation tools like Creator Plus, document templates with accessible headers, callouts, and different sections of content that really start to parse out material for learners, and then finish with an interactive element, like an interactive video through H5P. This is using our existing tool sets that we've already launched in previous years in a space that really becomes collaborative at scale. With the linear learning model that Brightspace Modules supports, I can simply click Next and see a different style of content in how it's displayed for our learners. In this case, we can use things like timelines with our Creator Plus elements, as well as things like accordions to have clickable elements and ask our learners to really participate in the material. After we have the learners interact, we might want them to apply or test their understanding, or maybe have critical thinking questions beyond just this page, so things to take away and discuss with their peers. They can simply inline also test their understanding and get a feedback loop that they may need to try again towards success, really impacting the learning moment at scale from a collaborative CreateSpace. I can also complete this module with assessments. So inline, I have an assignment as well as a discussion. And I can simply add existing material that I've previously created in other areas of CreateSpace, including being able to sort by different content sources. For example, if I wanted to add in a quiz I've created, I filter by quiz, and I'm able to add that music history quiz right in line in that linear learning model. Now I want to showcase how we can actually create from scratch as well, making it just as easy to do some of these workflows in Brightspace. I'm going to head back to our content library and start to build out a SWOT module. I have a placeholder here for an existing module and previously created content that I'll add in later. Just to note, this previously created content has version history that showcases when and by who these versions were made for. I can also easily restore previous versions or duplicate as a new page, really providing continuity of content creation over time by multiple users. I'll head into the SWOT module here to start building. If I take a look at this module and start to think about how I might craft it, I can do things like edit and use Z12 Lumi to generate a summary based on the material in the page. This will help learners guide contextually what they can expect from this module. And kicking off our D12 Lumi toolset in this space will also allow us to have confidence that this is a closed loop mentality. So all of the content that is used in this generation is already existing in the page, and it doesn't get used to train externally or impact my security and intellectual property of this material. We'll save and close. Now let's build out a content page. We recently announced the release within a content page of being able to modify with AI. Now think with CreateSpace, I can do this at scale. So here I'll click a basic page. I'll jump into modify with AI and provide instructions based on what I can expect. You'll notice I can also click to apply Creator plus elements to allow for a more dynamic and clickable page here for my learners. I prompted it to really guide my learners in a first-year undergraduate class to have an introduction concept on SWOT. I also wanted a summary that learners should take away from this page and set them up for success in this course, really guiding my learners through a learning experience as this generates the content on the page. Now that that iteration has generated, you can start to see how this actually built out a really lovely structured page with key concepts and callouts, as well as accordions on applications and reflections and key takeaways in the different areas of the material. This is really scaling that collaborative effort and interactive content in CreateSpace. If I save this as a new page, this allows me to create this material while also iterating over time. The final thing I'll showcase with respect to CreateSpace is the ability to take these modules and concepts and actually deploy them to a destination course. So remember that previous music history module, we'll easily deploy this to our destination of music history. I simply select and deploy.
Wow. So what you've really just seen is a different operating model for learning content than we've seen before. This is create once, reuse intentionally, update safely, and the ability to collaborate at scale. We're still really early in that journey, and maintaining quality in this kind of environment requires a different approach than simply copying courses forward semester after semester, or as some refer to it, copy and hope. We announced a solution spotlight this morning that from August, institutions will be able to get early access to CreateSpace directly on their own Brightspace sites. This is a really important milestone. This means we're bringing CreateSpace moving out of the concept and beta environment and into real institutional contexts where this work matters most. And this early access stage will remain in place as we work towards general availability by the end of this year. By the general availability stage in December, CreateSpace will have met the criteria that we've identified through our research, design work, and through your beta feedback. So across this early access period, you can expect to see us continue to building in the areas that matter most. This is not about moving from one date to another. This is about moving through real product gates and real customer validation, real decisions about what needs to come first. Our closed beta has been incredibly valuable because it has shown us what different institutions, teams, and operating models need from CreateSpace in order to adopt it with confidence. It has also helped us understand some of the practical questions institutions are working through. How do we bring existing content into Brightspace from Brightspace into CreateSpace? How do we manage linked content safely? How do we control where the updates go? And do we understand where content's being used? Can we make sure that the right teams have the right level of access and control? These are the kinds of questions shaping our gates on the path to general availability. So between now and December, you can expect to see continued investment across several key areas. First, D2L Lumi, helping teams generate, refine, and summarize content as part of the content creation workflow. Secondly, we have in-place content updates. We will deliver dynamic update workflows so teams can push or deploy content updates only where they want them. And here's a good example of beta feedback in action. Based on what we've learned, we've made a deliberate decision on how to adjust the sequencing of this work. So first, we're going to focus on push updates to course offerings, with push deployments to source courses following shortly after. That's different from our original plan, but it's the right change based on what we've learned from institutions who are using CreateSpace in real workflows. Third, bringing existing Brightspace content into CreateSpace. The team is working through a proof of concept this summer for copying existing course content into CreateSpace. And I know that that is something that many of you are waiting to hear more about because it affects how you plan your own content strategy and your future workflows. Next, we have deployment tracking. If content's going to be reused across courses and programs, teams need a really clear view of where it has gone, where it's linked, and where updates may need attention. And finally, extensibility and administration. We're hardening new CreateSpace APIs so that it can work well with ecosystem tools that need to author, create, or curate content. We're also working to improve permissions and administration so that your teams have more control inside CreateSpace itself and not only inherited through broader roles and permissions tools. There is also important foundational work happening around usage data, events, and data sets. Because over time, institutions will need that insight in order to understand where content is being used, what needs attention, what's working, and where automation or version auditing can support better decisions. So as you can see, there's a ton happening between now and December, and you can follow along in our monthly release notes as we take that journey. But this is a major investment for us, but we believe it's the right work. And we're hearing that echoed back from you. And because content workflows are not small things, they touch courses, programs, teams, governance, quality, and the day-to-day work of educators, learning designers, and administrators. So our goal is not simply to move fast, it's to move responsibly, to listen, to learn, and to make the right product decisions, and to make sure that by general availability, CreateSpace is ready to support real institutional content workflows at scale. But of course, content is only one part of the picture. And even the best content strategy can struggle if the surrounding ecosystem is difficult to manage. And that's something we're hearing more and more from the sector. A desire to simplify, to reduce friction, and to make complex environments easier to operate. This brings us to the next tension: transformation versus disruption. Because the challenge isn't only how to introduce new capabilities, it's how to make progress feel manageable inside the environments institutions already run every day. And that's exactly what I'd like to explore next. Danielle, let's start with the two places where that complexity often shows up: how large-scale learning is organized and how institutions balance central governance with local flexibility.
Thanks, Louise. Let's jump into the groups tool. Thanks, Louise. Let's jump into our investment so far into groups management. As we know from within Brightspace over the last year, we've invested in ways to consistently filter by groups across tools, like class lists, so I can easily grab a group, add it to my filter, and click apply, so I can see those tangible subgroups across my class list. Let's see how we've done that within the Manage Groups area. I now have a one-stop shop dashboard to be able to see all of my categories at a glance and be able to quickly validate groups setup by showing those existing categories, their respective configurations and enrollment type, the number of groups in each one, and the associated activities with quick links directly to them. I also have the capability from within this groups dropdown to be able to import and export. And historically, that was hidden between multiple clicks and in multiple settings. But here I can simply import using a clear template available. I can also manage and edit the category here, as well as seeing a bird's eye view of all of the members of each group in one single screen, really reducing the ability to have to click through multiple screens and multiple settings to see what I want to see. If I wanted to actually click into a groups like group projects here, I can see that across hundreds of students here, I have this nice display of all the groups. And that continuity of a bird's eye view is maintained here, where I can see the group code, members, the assignments, discussions, and lockers associated with each one. But let's say, for example, that I by accident delete one that I didn't mean to. Brightspace consistently offers restore workflows that I can head back to my recycling bin and easily restore those groups without any IT tickets or administrative oversight, really putting the power back in my hands as a faculty member to easily navigate and manage my groups at scale. Another area of investment is D2L's rollout of a secure distributed administration capabilities, which is reflecting on a commitment to supporting institutions with increasingly complex workflows and organizational models, empowering local autonomy at a distributed level in the organizational structure, while preserving enterprise-wide consistency. So what does that mean in practice? This is the South Campus Administrator login for South Campus as a part of a larger institution that has multiple campuses, including North Campus. As a South Campus Administrator, I want the ability to manage and visualize Brightspace's flexible org structure while not affecting any other areas of the org structure. So I can simply go into my campus admin tools, hop into the known and loved org unit editor, and showcase how you can only see the South Campus org structure clearly articulated in the dropdowns. If I wanted to create an org unit here, I would simply be creating it within the South Campus structure, really providing that secure distribution of admin rights. This is ensuring these local admins, like a South Campus admin, can create and manage courses without waiting on central IT. And visibility is automatically limited to their campus, reducing risk while maintaining governance. This is extended to a few other tools that I'll showcase, including navigation, themes, homepages, and announcements. For example, if I'm in the navigation and themes area, not only can I establish a campus-specific default that will be inherited by courses, but also if I wanted to edit a navigation bar, for example, I have this organizational unit structure to be able to distribute this theme or navigation bar throughout my organizational structure just within South Campus, really providing South Campus control. This is also through our announcements functionality as well. So if I simply edit this announcement on the main homepage, I get that same capability to add org units that are simply restricted to South Campus alone. Finally, I'll showcase our administration area for awards. Brightspace Awards is included in our core platform and optimized and used by many institutions today. But you'll notice in this new awards administration area that I'm able to establish as South Campus admin, South Campus specific metadata that will be automatically associated with my awards at scale. Previously, these settings were buried across multiple configuration variables that only central administrators could manage. Now, as South Campus administrator, I can configure awards specifically for my campus while still respecting the institution's governance model.
But complexity doesn't only show up in big administrative workflows. It also shows up in everyday moments of teaching and learning too. Assessment's a really good example. For learners, a quiz could be a high pressure moment. And for instructors, quizzes are often where small workflow limitations create frustrating workarounds. So I wanted to share two quick perspectives from members of our team who've been working on making those moments a little easier.
One problem that we saw this year that I am personally proud of is the creation of quiz annotations. Now, taking quizzes for anyone is a stressful experience as you have to deal with time pressure and the stress of doing well. So I wanted students and learners alike to be able to navigate better throughout the quiz with the ability to bookmark questions for further review and also to strike through answer options as they go through. I think it will be tremendously valuable for anyone who takes quizzes, and I'm super excited to see it go into production.
I'm happy that we were able to provide instructors more flexibility with their quiz questions by supporting questions that have 0 point value, something they've been requesting for a while now. It allows instructors to include questions in their quiz for information gathering purposes, for capturing learners' choices for context. For example, select the image that you're going to provide a critique for in the next question, and even for having an academic integrity or honesty code question at the beginning of their quizzes. This eases their frustration of the workaround for using very small point values, such as like a 0.001, or manually having to overwrite those points during grading.
What I really like about those examples is that they're very practical. They reduce friction in moments that happen every day. And at institutional scale, those small moments matter. Whether learners are moving through content, activities, or assessment, the experience should feel clear, focused, and easy to engage with. That's why, from a content experience point of view, we've continued investing in the immersive learner view, learning outcomes alignment, and inline activity updates. Danielle, can you show us that experience?
Absolutely. I wanted to jump back into the platform and head into some of the advancements we continue to make in the new content experience. I'm going to start with the instructor workflow. As I jump into content, I see this immersive curriculum view where I can easily expand and see all of my linear learning model across all of the weeks, modules, or units I've created, including a clear picture of due dates associated with my content. I can easily jump into the content itself and see this nice immersive view. So I have less white space and more content creation space to get started in creating or adding existing content. I can simply navigate through as expected to check my work and see what's available in this module. I also wanted to showcase a few investments we've made in this new content experience with respect to outcomes. As you may have previously used, this outcomes button used to show a static curriculum map that showed alignment just in a numeric value of where outcomes had been associated with assessments. I am happy to announce that if I click this now, I see not only a searchable curriculum map at a high level across modules and the ability to hover over and see aligned assessments, but more importantly, I can click in and actually make direct alignments in this easy matrix. This has really scaled outcome curriculum mapping across Brightspace in an already strong place. I can simply click and you see just how easy it is to make that assessment to this outcome to this content item. Brightspace has also invested in areas where we want to use D2L Lumi to help scale that alignment. So if I head into week 3 in this discussion board, and let's say I was already creating and managing this discussion, and I said, hey, D2L Lumi, can you help sift through those outcome structures, the content I just created, and suggest the best outcome? This was already possible in assignments, and we wanted to extend that practice to discussions and content, allowing that continuity of outcome assessment and association at scale with D2L Lumi. This is also the same consistent visualization with the student experience. So I'm going to toggle over to Paulina as a student in the course. And if I click one of these tiles from the modules area, this directly immerses me in that experience. Again, less white space, more immersion in the learning experience, and then an easy navigation through the already loved new content experience. If Paulina wanted to see that same curriculum view, she's able to head back, see what she's completed, and when she expands these, she's able to see actual activity on what she's posted, completed, and when things are due, really providing a bird's eye view into this visual across the entire curriculum available in the course.
Thanks, Danielle. I think that really brings the story together nicely. Managing complexity at scale isn't only about administration. It shows up in how cohorts are organized, how local teams are supported, how learners move through content and assessment, and how educators connect activities, outcomes, and progress. Across all of those moments, the goal is the same: to reduce friction, to make the experience clearer, and to help institutions operate at scale without losing quality, consistency, or care. But of course, institutions don't operate from a single platform. Learning happens across an ecosystem of systems, services, and partners. So alongside simplifying the Brightspace experience itself, we've also been focused on making it easier to connect, extend, and to evolve the ecosystem around it. Because for most institutions, innovation doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when the tools, data, workflows, and partners around learning can work together more easily. Let's walk through what we've delivered there, Danielle.
Thanks, Louise. Let's start with Brightspace apps. We all, myself included, have tried to set up an LTI integration in Brightspace and can appreciate that there is a little bit too many clicks and repetitive activities. So that's why Brightspace, within the managed extensibility concept, launched Brightspace apps. This allows institutional administrators to find and create apps. If I were to find apps, this gives me a nice marketplace to showcase partner organizations that have been vetted and are securely integrated into Brightspace. So this means no more sifting through Google searches, websites for documentation, wondering if it's out of date, but offer pre-filled, vetted, secure, clickable elements to say, I want to quickly pick one and install. There's even more information here related to resources, categories for searching, information about the partner, and even a data access tab to better showcase to administrators what information is being disseminated through the different platforms. We really wanted this to be as close to one click as possible. In addition to apps, we also extended our extensibility through API innovations. So this year, D2L continued to accelerate its API strategy, delivering foundational capabilities to expand platform extensibility. To put that into perspective, D2L delivered 40 plus API enhancements across 10 plus Brightspace product areas just in the first half of this year, meaning we've scaled learning outcomes, expanded course lifecycle automation, modernized user and permission management through distributed administration support, advanced assessment integration by stabilizing rubrics APIs and launching grade scheme APIs. And we've introduced intelligent agent APIs so we can use this valuable tool at scale. All of this together means more Brightspace workflows can now be automated with stronger governance, richer data access, and less manual administration.
As institutions become more connected, another question naturally follows. How do we make sure that all of that innovation remains trusted? Because today, conversations about technology aren't just about functionality. They're about trust. Trust that data is protected, trust that systems are resilient, trust that learning remains accessible and inclusive, and trust that institutions can move forward without increasing risk. Security isn't a feature we add to the platform. It's a prerequisite for everything else we do. Innovation only matters when institutions can trust the foundations underneath it. And while trust gives institutions confidence to move forward, confidence alone isn't enough. Institutions also need visibility. Because every day, learners generate signals, engagement, progress, struggle, success. The challenge isn't collecting that information anymore. The challenge is knowing what to do with it, which brings us to our final tension, data versus action.
So I want to take you through some of the innovations we've done to connect those things, data to intervention. And so I'm going to start at the course level, where you would have previously seen that D2L Lumi expanded into study support to help students with real-time intervention post-quiz, but also that we expanded Lumi Insights to showcase data related to assessment activity in where students are struggling the most with questions, what suggested content is most relevant through study support, and then what content is actually being clicked as a result of that study support intervention. And that's where we start to get into the newly released intervention suggestions. So historically, as an educator, I would first have to find this data, sift through settings, reports within the quiz tool. Now this is leveraged inline directly where I already am. And the suggestions are actionable. So it's saying, based on these quiz questions associated to this content and these outcomes, you might benefit from editing that quiz and adjusting the quiz questions. Or if you're reviewing associated content, you might edit that content to better directly reflect the questions, or use D2L Lumi to help you modify with AI at scale. The thing that I'm most excited about is the opportunity to intervene with the student experience in a really intentional way. So Brightspace allows you to intervene in the actual quiz, in the actual associated content, but then in a personalized way, it reaches out directly to the learners struggling with those specific questions. It personalizes at scale using Brightspace's replace strings, connects the dots of quiz to associated content, and writes that all for me with the click of a button. This previously was multiple steps, multiple hours of time, and an opportunity where I never got to the point of intervening with students. Lumi Interventions really helps scale this opportunity, not only with quiz questions themselves, but also with the actual content suggested. So this can redirect learners to the content suggested as a result of those questions that they got wrong. How many of us as educators have also wondered, are they actually using that content? Are they clicking through and intaking what I'm hoping I'm offering as support? This is that final card. Here, any learner who hasn't clicked through that content that was suggested, you have the opportunity to also outreach and email them directly, providing that seamless continuity of data to intervention. This is just at the course level. If we wanted to think about intervention and data-informed decisions at an aggregate level, I know that many of us have used the Insights portal for quick pulse checks across adoption, engagement, and assessment quality. And many of us are starting to explore and optimize data within Analytics Builder as a built-in business intelligence tool within Brightspace. Newly released is the Brightspace Analytics Builder Essentials package across 3 different areas: engagement, achievement, and adoption. I'm just going to showcase a few clicks within these 2 areas. Within engagement, many of us as educators and folks who support students have often wondered, what is the engagement? But more importantly, could you give me a quick pulse check on students and really highlight areas of struggle or disengagement? This dashboard automatically comes pre-built and has these clear indicators of where you can start to intervene with the student experience, where you can start to see the total enrollments, completion rates, submission rates, and timing content. This can easily be shared and distributed if students start to fall below certain thresholds of achievement. Speaking of achievement, the next one on the list offers the opportunity for institutions to look at granular data of achievement across grades, but also at a high level, this summary, and be able to see what that threshold might be for passing. That could be in an individual course, or you could filter by department or program, or even institutionally. But let's say this shifts. Maybe the passing grade is 75%. These are also dynamic, so this easily updated as I adjusted that threshold of achievement, really providing that continuity at scale of all data across my Brightspace environment, but in an easy to navigate and updated system.
Wow. We've looked at how institutions are scaling quality, simplifying complexity, and evolving their ecosystems. But ultimately, all of those investments are in service of something much bigger, the learner experience itself. Before we look at some of the innovations we're building in this space, I wanted to share a perspective from 2 members of our team who spend their time thinking about students every day.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, a senior user experience researcher at D2L.
Hey, I'm Mike, Senior Product Designer at D2L.
Both of us work on D2L's AI-driven product called Lumi. For the past several months, we've been working on a feature for students, which has the goal of providing them with study tools that encourages effective study habits as supported by learning science. We know that effective studying can be challenging for students and create barriers to learning, so we've been excited to work on this problem. As a UX researcher, my job has been to bring in the needs and perspectives of actual students at every stage of building this feature. For this feature, we've spoken to real students and have more studies planned to happen in the future. This allows us to learn about how students are currently studying and identify areas in the current design that might not be working for them. I'm proud of how hard we've worked to make sure that the study tool we're building for students actually works for them.
for me as the designer on this project, my job is to take everything we've learned from subject matter experts in learning science, from the UX research that Caitlin's team has done, from the students themselves, and we try and shape that into an experience that feels natural and intuitive to use. The movement into all of this is how do we offer AI in a way that actually supports students' thinking rather than just doing the thinking for them? Getting that balance right has shaped every design decision we've made. It's been a really fun project to work on.
What I love about that perspective is that it isn't really a technology story. It's a learning story, because the question is not how do we add more AI into education? The question is, how do we design learning experiences that genuinely help learners succeed? Which brings us to our next tension: personalization versus capacity. Learners increasingly expect support that's timely, relevant, and responsive. But educators don't magically get more hours in the day. So how do we support both? How do we help learners build confidence, develop effective study habits, and make progress when they need support most? And how do we do that in ways that support teaching rather than replacing it? There are a lot of ways we could approach that challenge. But one thing we've been very intentional about as we've built AI-powered learner support is that we haven't started with the technology. We started with learning. Because while AI can generate answers almost instantly, learning doesn't happen instantly. Learning requires effort, reflection, practice, and a healthy degree of struggle. Educational research has long shown that those moments of productive struggle are often where the deepest learning happens. So we haven't been asking, how do we give learners answers faster? We've been asking, how do we help learners think more deeply? How do we build confidence? How do we support progress without removing the learning process itself? And that's the philosophy behind how we've approached learner AI experiences in Brightspace. With that, I'd love to hand it over to Danielle to show you what it looks like in practice.
Thank you, Louise. Now, based on what we know that interventions with greater evaluative structure were associated with better, higher order cognitive outcomes than those with less structure, which is why D2L invested in the first ever learning-centered AI experience, allowing learners to seamlessly enter into learner mode from within the content they're already navigating with tools that support learning and is integrated with care. So when I'm ready as a learner, I'm going to jump in and launch the learner mode. I've done so at the module header, which allows me to see a view into all of the module content that is associated with this course. You can see that there are highlights on the screen, which as a learner, I'm able to highlight myself, and it automatically highlights the content. If I wanted to click a previous highlight, I have a few different options here for AI enhanced options for multiple ways to represent the curiosity step for learners, in that we might want to further explain something or give examples to contextualize this information. If I select explain this will generate that explanation for me as a learner, providing me immediate guidance on what this is expanding on in terms of my curriculum. We also have the capability here to save to notes, which provides contextual elaboration and mirrors real-world muscles our learners are using every day of highlighting and saving things for further explanation as a note. I also, inline, can add my own comments to the notes by easily commenting or writing my own from scratch. This really allows that muscle to take place that I've previously had to do externally to the LMS. I'm now doing it directly in the curriculum and aligning to the learning experience. You'll also notice this button up here that says check my knowledge, where I can instantly see knowledge checks question 1 out of 4 and be able to progress through at my own pace, providing contextual insight into retrieval practice with Socratic questioning. I can see that I got this answer correct, but if I collect this answer, I get that incorrect, but with guidance. really allowing me to increase my understanding before I've navigated away from the page. Once I finish the different question types associated with this set, I'm able to finish that material. This gives me a quick summary of the knowledge check and how I actually performed across those questions so that I have that real-time progress and encouragement. This is also consolidated as I go through my pages in my learning progress. So here I can click and see over time what I've done in terms of notes, what I've highlighted, and how many knowledge checks I've completed. This really helps me build up a portfolio of all my learning and is always visible to me as my learning progress. Jump into a piece of content and launch the learner mode here, I'm able to see just this page and just the comments and highlights associated with just this content in one space here. So it contextualizes my learning moment in all of the different spaces. Now I'm going to pause. We also see that you will have access for this stable and consistent place for this to show up, so I don't have to seek it out as the learner. I simply see it inline here with easy prompts to get started. This is really connecting my learner to a conversational assistant, but in context. This space of Lumi Learner Mode will continue to be advanced and worked on over the next coming months, and we look forward to seeing as we expand its feature set over time.
What I think is important about what you just showed us is that the design intent matters. We're not simply asking, can AI give a learner an answer? We're asking, can AI help a learner stay engaged in the process of learning? And that distinction matters. I think it points to a much bigger conversation happening across higher education right now, because AI isn't only changing how learners study. It's changing how we think about evidence of learning, what counts as understanding, what counts as support, and what should assessment measure when AI is part of the learning environment. This is where the conversation around authentic assessment becomes so important. Not just as a reaction to AI, but as a part of a bigger shift in how education needs to evolve. For many years, digital learning has helped institutions expand access, flexibility, and scale. And that has been incredibly important. But some of the models we built for the digital era are now being stretched by a very different technological reality, especially assessment. Because AI is forcing us to look again at some of the assumptions that have shaped teaching and learning for a long time. If a learner can generate an answer instantly, then the answer alone may no longer be enough. We need to think more deeply about the process behind the answer, about the judgment behind it, the reflection, the application, the ability to explain, adapt, critique, and improve. In many ways, AI is not simply breaking assessment, but it is exposing the parts of assessment that were already fragile. A 10-question multiple choice quiz was never the full measure of deep learning. A final essay was never the only way to demonstrate understanding. And a single submitted artifact was never the whole story of how learning happened. But for a long time, those approaches were practical. They were scalable, they were familiar, and in many cases, they still have a role. You've seen today, looking at our quiz example, we're still heavily invested in removing daily frictions in assessments. These are important digital learning tools. But AI is asking us to go further, to think not only about what learners produce, but about how they learn, how they reason, how they use feedback, how they make decisions, how they work with technology, and how they demonstrate capability in ways that feel meaningful, credible, and connected to the world we're preparing them for entering. Because the reality is, most graduates will not enter workplaces where they are asked to work without technology. They will enter environments where they need to work with it, responsibly, critically, creatively, and with judgment. So the question for higher education is not simply, how do we stop students using AI? It needs to be, how do we design learning experiences where AI use still requires thinking? Or how do we design assessments that value process, judgment, and application? How do we help learners build the capabilities they'll actually need beyond the institution? That is the paradigm shift. And it's not a small one. It touches curriculum design, assessment design, academic integrity, student support, faculty workload, data, policy, and trust. And it requires technology that's designed with those educational realities in mind. That's why our approach matters. We don't believe that AI in education should simply be about speed or automation or generating more content. It should be about supporting better learning, helping learners build confidence, helping educators focus their time where it matters most, and helping institutions act on insight, and helping higher education move into this next chapter with purpose. That ultimately is the thread running through everything we've explored today. Whether we're talking about content at institutional scale, operational complexity, well-connected ecosystems, trust and resilience, data and action, or AI-enabled learning. The goal is not simply to add more technology. The goal is to help institutions evolve with confidence, to support educators, to strengthen learning, and to create better experiences for every learner. Higher education is being asked to change in real time. But that change doesn't have to mean losing what matters most. It can mean protecting it, scaling it, making it more accessible, making it more responsive, and making it sustainable for the people who deliver it every day. That is the work we're committed to. And that is why we're so excited about the future we're building with you. Thank you.